Hey mama, today I want to talk to you about setting a time budget. What's a time budget? It's a budget for your time. Just like you have a budget for your money, you should have a budget for your time. The reason is that where you invest your time, you invest your life. Let me say that again. Where you invest your time, you invest your life. And I want to be sure that you are spending your time wisely. Because here's a crazy thought, but one that's true. You know what you have less of than money? Time. It is easier to replicate and replace money than it is time, right? Once that hour is gone, you are not getting it back. So let's make sure that you are using those hours in a way that is building up your life to what you want it to be. How do you do that? You take stock of where you're spending and then readjust. So step one for setting a time budget is to understand where you're actually spending your time now. Go ahead, take a moment, open up whatever kind of calendar you're using. If it's an app, if it's Google Calendar, if it's Outlook, whatever calendar you're using, take a look at that calendar. And for the last week, fill in everything that you did. Start from the time that you woke up in the morning. What did you do in the morning? I spent 10 minutes getting myself ready. Then I spent a half an hour getting the kids ready. Write it all down. From the time that you woke up till the time you walked out the door. How long did that take? Then mark everything else from your day in the same way, right? If you're doing drop-off, how long does drop-off take? If you're commuting, how long is your commute? How much time are you actually at work? Are you taking a lunch hour? If you're taking a lunch hour, how long is it? What are you doing on that lunch hour? What time do you leave work? Are you doing errands after work? If you're running errands after work or doing something else, how long, how often? Write it down. What time do you get home? When you walk in the door, what happens after you're home? Block it off, right? Do you spend 10 minutes playing with the kids, 20 minutes getting dinner together, 30 minutes eating together, then you start bath time for an hour? Whatever that schedule is, write it all down. Once the kids go to bed, then what are you doing? Write it all down. When do you actually go to sleep? 11 o'clock, 9 o'clock, if you're lucky. Just write down whatever time it is that you actually go to sleep. So mark it out. Mark the full day. Do that for each day of the week, because we all know that every day of the week is a little bit different. Do that for this past week, what already happened. Now for the upcoming week, mark down what it is that you do each day, because sometimes we think we're spending our time in a certain way and we're really not. Just like our money, it's the latte factor, right, of time, where you're spending time doing some things that you don't even realize you're spending time on. So yes, that means you also need to be writing down, I spent 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour on social media last night. Write it all down. So for the next week, track it. And if you want to track it for 2 weeks, go ahead. But once you have 2 weeks of time data, go ahead and fill out what a month looks like. Add in those extra things that are fairly irregular, that don't happen every single day, right? You've got doctor's appointments here or there, maybe. You've got outings with your girlfriends or meetings with your family. Go ahead and write all that down so that you can understand what a month looks like, and just create little blocks of time for each one of those. The second step then is to go through and mark each one as mandatory or discretionary. So mandatory is your basic budget, right? That's the spending that you just have to do, right? So these are the activities that you spend your time on, which help to keep a roof over your head, keep your kids fed, where you take care of your family. Go ahead and mark those with a little M so that you know it's mandatory. If you're using an app, or if you have a bullet journal, however you're going to track this, maybe color it in. All the mandatory things are a certain color, but just mark those mandatory items. I want you to mark for sure self-care time, family bonding time, time with your husband or your partner. Mark that as mandatory as well, right? Those are things that you need in your life. Please mark self-care as a mandatory item. And if your self-care isn't already on there, go ahead, just add it in, just sneak it in there. Then mark everything else as discretionary. These are the things that you're choosing to do, but aren't necessarily, keeping the lights on. Now just put it to the side. Don't think too hard about it. The third step is to write down where you think you should be spending your time. So the discretionary time. So for the discretionary time, about how much of that should be going to hanging out with your friends, how much should be going to hanging out with your extended family, how much of that should be going to doing activities for yourself. Write that all down. Just write down about how much time you think you should be spending doing each thing. Then the fourth step is to actually take a look at where you're spending your time. So now take a look and say, okay, here's where I think I should be spending all my time. And maybe you do think you should be spending a few hours a week on social media, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's really about what you think you should be doing. But write it all down and then look at what you think you should be doing and look at what you're actually doing. What you're probably going to find is they're not exactly matched up. And that's okay, because now's the time to course correct, right? So go ahead and think about for the next week how you can spend your time differently so that it is better matched to how you should be spending your time. And what I mean by should is what you believe you should be spending your time on. Because you know what, Mama? That's what you should be spending your time on. So go ahead and then once you've done that, course correct, right? Make adjustments in your life so that you are spending your time on the things that matter most to you. And you're spending your time in a way that is proportionate to the importance of different events for you, right? It might be important for you to do something for someone regularly, but you might only want to be spending 5% of your time doing things for others, right? Instead of, 20, 30% doing things for people outside of your family. I don't know. Really, it's up to you. But what I do know is that how you actually spend your time should match up with how you believe you should be spending your time. All right, let me know how that exercise goes for you. Comment down below or feel free to email me, Whitney@rosegoldmama.com, and let me know.